So I have had so many injuries in the last 10 days. So like my body gave up, broke down, and you're in the middle of training camp. Today I'm going to explain to you first what the injuries were, and then we're going to talk about what I'm doing to make sure I can get back to training camp as quick as possible, or what you could be doing to be getting some training in while you're injured, but not aggravating the injuries any further. I'm sure you guys know the expression, when it rains, it pours. And sometimes it feels like that when you start getting injuries. One thing happens and then it's two and then it's three. I feel like over the last 2 weeks, I've had a dozen injuries. And normally I would advise somebody like, oh, okay, your left wrist is injured. Well, just don't use that. Use all the other tools which you have. But what do you do when, for starters, the very first thing was my back started hurting. Old injury, came back a little bit, started being like, oh, I could do this motion and I would feel the spine kind of like kind of grind. And usually I could get back into training, you know, shift around, pop it a couple times, use a couple of the physio drills and tools I have to get it back to snuff. But I could tell it was just on the edge of giving out. And when it usually gives out, it takes me a couple weeks to recover. And then came along injury number 2. I had a knee injury for a while, the tibia. I know you can't even really, probably can't tell, but it's much more pronounced on this leg than the other. The tibia was protruding and I would start running. It would feel like a pocket or a fluid pocket would build up. And again, it's been happening over the last year. I have ways to treat it, but all of a sudden that one comes out of the blue again and starts aggravating me. So we have all the back sore and now we have the knees sore, which effectively takes away running. And then all of a sudden I start to get some elbow pain. I just go, oh, that's weird. I don't know what I did there, but the elbow is really starting to flare up. And then before you know it, it is just full-blown cellulitis. The whole arm from like here to here is completely red, and I'm all of a sudden in the emergency room. Next thing you know, they're putting IVs in my body. I get poked and poked and poked and poked. They can't find the vein. Poked and poked and poked. Something at like number 6. I start to go like, oh, not feeling great. They finally get the IV in. They tell me to just relax for a second. And then I pass out. As I fall down, I smash my shin. Now the shin is all inflamed. And because of the cellulitis, I get put on an antibiotic, or actually 2 antibiotics. Initially 1 IV and 1 oral, now 2 oral ones. All of a sudden, my body starts really breaking down on me. My knuckle, which I hurt in my last fight, all of a sudden starts hurting again. The back of my left knee, all of a sudden it's even hard to walk. Like I had a day there where I was legitimately hobbling. I'd be like, oh, I need to go get some food, have IV in, and I start hobbling in the grocery store. The next morning I wake up, like, oh, finally had a good sleep, feeling a little recovered. I wake up and my right ear has almost doubled in size. I wake up, I look in the mirror, I'm like, what the heck, something's off. And then I look and like, this thing is so puffy. It looks like I have cauliflower ear, except I've been out of the gym now for like 4 or 5 days. I haven't been hit, so that makes 0 sense. But eventually you go, you know what, I'm feeling a little recovered, enough is enough, time to head back out for a little run. And all of a sudden the arch of the foot just starts to spasm, just full on spasm when I'm out doing my run. And it just seems like before the injury, the cellulitis, and then after, I've had 3 or 4 other things, smaller, that were just there. They were just giving me irritation. And at that point, it's like, what do you do? Or what do you do when you get any small injury? Let's break down a couple strategies right now. So the first thing that I've noticed throughout the years is that high volume in training can destroy you. And that is why when you hear many athletes get older and more experienced, they'll start to say, man, I trained like an idiot when I was younger. I was doing these crazy long routines. I would train for 5 hours per day. And then you hear them saying, look, I boiled it down to everything I really have to do, and I get it done in 3.5 hours. And that's something which I have done as well. Instead of going in for a 2.5 hour kickboxing session and doing a 2-hour run, I'll do more now like an 1.5 hour kickboxing and something more like an hour run. And that gives me a little bit more time throughout the day to recover and just less wear and tear on that body. But even having done that, the injuries can still pile up. One of the most important things which I've learned throughout the years is you can wake up on any given day and go, oh, I'm just not feeling it. The body's telling me no. But we have usually, for people who want to really excel, we have this resilience to push through it. But you start to learn that that can actually be detrimental, and pushing through all the time is unwise. So I give myself 2 days in fight camp, or 2 sessions, sorry, in fight camp where I go, if I'm not feeling great, I take it off. I make myself take 2 per fight camp, and I find that actually stops me from getting really, really injured. So if you feel like you have a day where you're just going, yeah, my body's saying no, listen to it instead of pushing through. And of course, as always, the big important things, the sleep, the supplements, the alternative recovery methods like ice baths, red light therapy, saunas, those are all gonna help you a lot. And of course, if you end up at that point where you have maybe like, my right hand is really sore, don't stop training. Go in and use your kicks and your left hand. Or if you can't run for some reason, find alternative methods, assault bikes, swimming. There's lots of options. But what do you do when you reach the point that I'm at where the body just starts giving away on you? Do you push through? Do you just get that mental fortitude like, I will not be stopped? In my experience, because I've done that, it does not end up well. You end up, whether it be a month or 6 months down the road, really paying the price, and then you have this long recovery. In my experience, and I listened to my body over the last week, I went, yeah, I have an IV in, I have cellulitis, I have all these other things breaking down, but I could keep training. I really could. Is it smart though? Is it wise? Should I just take 3-4 days off and then reassess? That's exactly what I did. Now I'm on, I think, that's probably day 6 now. Yesterday I just did like 30 minutes. Today I'm gonna do an hour. Tomorrow I'll try an 1.5 hours, and every day I'll assess and make sure that after doing this volume of training, my body is fine, is ready for tomorrow, and I haven't destroyed it. And yes, this is very frustrating in fight camp, and mentally you have to be able to get past the fact that, oh, I missed some of that higher volume training, and it is what it is. But I'd rather take it light this week and then have 4 weeks after to really push, as opposed to try and push right now and then have 4 mediocre weeks after. So I just wanted to share that with everybody on the channel, because you know I've been injured, you know my body's been under a lot of duress, and you just probably weren't aware of to the extent which my body was really falling apart. But like I said, I always find a way to bounce back, and in this case it was just taking those days off completely. I think in 4 days the only thing I did was walk outside. We did a little 3-kilometer hike. That's all. And aside from that, I have been doing nothing. Full on horizontal on the couch most of the time, making a couple of YouTube videos for you. I stopped teaching, I stopped everything. Full recovery. It's worked for me in the past, it'll work for me again. And if you guys in the future have something you're trying to deal with and you just feel like, you know what, I can't train through this, give yourself those few days and then reassess.